I am reading a book written by a scammer. Listen. People had to die in order for this book to be published. This manuscript, written in 1938, was so controversial that the author's own family locked it away for over 70 years. And it wasn't the government that suppressed it, it was his own wife. She was so terrified of the public backlash that they would receive if this book was released, so she did everything she could in her power to keep it from being published. When the author died in 1970, his widow kept it locked away, and then she ended up passing away in the 80s. That's when it was inherited by her nephew, whose wife also refused to let it see the light of day as long as she was still living and breathing on this earth. And it wasn't until 2011, after everyone who had their hands on this manuscript had passed away, that Outwitting the Devil was finally released. So a lot of people had issues with this because of the way I wrote my hook, where I said people had to die in order for this book to be released. Literally, that's what happened. People said that I try to make it sound like, I don't know, like bam, 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 bam. People were just like being like killed in order for them to be able to release it. That's not what happened. If you just listen to the second or third sentence, I unravel the rest of the story. The other thing is, of course, everyone always says, oh, Napoleon Hill was a scammer. You can never get me with that stuff because I don't care. I don't care what people were. If they wrote a book, I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to their perspective. A lot of people in my comments were saying, never take life advice from a scammer. You shouldn't be taking life advice from anyone. You should be collecting data, okay? You read this book to gain perspective. You read a book of fiction, you gain perspective. You read nonfiction, you listen to someone's story, you watch a documentary. All those things help you collect data to gain perspective. And then you sift through the things that resonate with you, and then you move on from there. There's really nothing to it. When you read a book, you're not obligated to take life advice from anyone, not from the author, not from the characters if it's a book of fiction, not from the person who went through all these different steps to finally be successful. You collect data, as I said before, and you sift through it. You see what resonates with you, what doesn't, and then you carry on. Yes, from what I understand, Napoleon Hill was a scammer. He had scammed people. There are even debates about whether or not he was commissioned to interview all these high profile people. A lot of people say he made it up. And if he made it up, it's still a book of fiction. And you can still gather perspective. And to me, there's nothing better than gathering and gaining perspective on things, because you get to live the life that you may never live or never understand unless it's someone telling it to you, unless it's someone explaining it to you, explaining that hard life or that successful life. You may never live those lives. And so gaining perspective to me is important. The reason Napoleon Hill's books were so successful is because they resonated with millions of people. And he wrote these after his life of scamming, or during his life of scamming. His books became successful because they resonated with a lot of people. He also wrote Think and Grow Rich. And then this one, like I said in the video, was released in 2011 and it was annotated. I want to go over both books because there are two different books. First, the annotated version, which is interesting, of course. You gain her perspective, you gain Sharon's perspective. The problem is that it does get a little noisy when you're reading, because you have Napoleon Hill and then you have the annotated parts that kind of break up Napoleon Hill's book. So it does get a little noisy because you're gaining two perspectives at the same time, and it doesn't even give you really time to digest the information. So my suggestion is, if you want to read this version, you should read it after the unedited version. And so I'm going to show you the unedited version, which is this one. So this one, the language of it right off the bat is more aggressive. You can tell that he was in a weird place. You can tell he was very frustrated and he was going to make this happen. He was going to make his success happen. And that comes through in the way he words things, the way he puts his sentences together. My advice, and you don't have to take my advice. My advice would be to read this one first. And then if you want an annotated version or someone else's perspective, once you've gained your own perspective from Napoleon Hill's book, then it would be to read the second one, the annotated version. And there you have it. And I may make another video like this because the reactions were so aggressive to me. He's a scammer. Why would you take advice from him? Why are you saying it like that? Why are you telling people to read this? Everything is going to be okay. This book was written like 90 years ago. Now, the reason that I feel like this is a book that could be of interest to a lot of people because he was frustrated, he's trying to gain success, and none of the ideas that he has in this book are out of the ordinary. They're things that we feel every day when we're frustrated of just about anything in life. He talks about not living your life on autopilot, trying to understand or hear your own inner voice, learn to listen to your intuition, learn to follow through. And that's basically all he's talking about. So it's a book that you might find useful. And if you don't, then you've gained perspective. And that's all there is to it.